So good morning, everyone. I welcome you to the side event Earth Observation and Artificial Intelligence for InsurTech of Amaldi Foundation. And I welcome you to the first panel, Space for InsurTech, What Does the Market Demand? So I would like to ask all the speakers of the second panel to close their microphone and video to avoid confusion. So thank you. So we can start for the panel, and during this panel we will define with our speakers what are the challenges, the needs and the pains of the InsurTech sector from different perspectives, to which we will try to answer in the next panel. We will also discuss about innovation and its role in the insurance sector, trying to define a possible path for a deeper integration with the space sector. So we have with us Gianluca Lorenzi, head of Reale Lab 1828, Yuri Poletto, partner and head of Open Insurance Observatory of Italian InsurTech Association, Raffaele Riva, head of PNC Business Management Italy of Swiss Re Europa, and Lorenzo Scatena, Secretary General of Amaldi Foundation and Ambassador of InQt Plus and ESA Business Application Programs. So now I would leave the floor to Eleonora Lombardi, Deputy Ambassador of ESA Business Applications and InQt Plus Programs, who will give us an overview of Amaldi Foundation. So thank you, Eleonora. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Georgia. And as she said, welcome to this side event organized by the Amaldi Foundation. I will provide a very brief presentation of the foundation for those joining and not knowing us yet. So the Amaldi Foundation was born in 2017, and it was co-founded by the Italian Space Agency and the Hypatia Research Consortium, so basically a private-public partnership. The Amaldi Foundation works with the institutional mandate of supporting technology transfer in Italy and in Europe. And we do that through our departments, through our verticals and research teams. We can say that we basically have two souls, one technological one and another one business and finance oriented. For this reason, we have 6 departments that are the business applications and the finance for innovation, the one representing the business and finance soul, and also the advanced manufacturing, the life science, the earth observation and telecommunication, and the electronics and new materials. Today I represent here the business application department. That is the one managing the business applications and the InQt Plus programs. As Amaldi Foundation, we act as ambassador on the national level of these 2 commercial programs of the European Space Agency. These, as I said, are the only commercial programs, meaning that are intended to provide co-funding to companies to develop services and products that are based on the integration of satellite data. In particular, we have the business application that is devoted to the integration of different types of satellite assets. It can be satellite navigation, telecommunication, and Earth observation. While we have the InQt Plus program that has a specific focus oriented on the integration of Earth observation technologies, and it can be co-funding both upstream and downstream services. This co-funding is quite generous. It can go from 250K up to 3 million, of course, depending on the type of service or products that companies would like to develop. That said, I would like to give the floor back to my colleague Georgia to start with the presentation of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonora, for the overview of the Amaldi Foundation. So let's start with the first round of presentation. I introduce myself briefly. I'm Giorgia D'Agostinis and I'm the technology analyst of the Amaldi Foundation. So now I will turn the floor to the speakers who will introduce themselves. And so Gianluca Lorenzi, we can start with you.
Thank you, Giorgia. I'm Gianluca Lorenzi, and I am the head of Reale Lab 1828. Reale Lab 1828 is the innovation lab of Reale Group. Reale Group is a mutual, the biggest, I guess we are in two in Italy, the biggest mutual company, insurance mutual company in Italy. We have a dimension about 5 billion euros of turnover, and we are present as of today in 3 countries, Italy, Spain, and Chile. And the mission of Reale Lab is that the one, it has been created in 2018, so it's quite brand new, and I joined the group just for this mission, actually. And our mission as Lab is to introduce the capability to integrate our huge structural organization that is an incumbent insurance, make them able to interact with this very fast developing world of startups and ecosystems. So to open up our world to the external world, being able to put in place POC validation processes and to bring the culture of innovation, so lean startup and customer centricity validation into the processes of the insurance company that are quite traditional. Just a brief introduction. We make this first round this way, right?
Yes, thank you,
okay,
Gianluca.
Thank you.
And Yuri Poletto, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi. Hello, everyone. Good morning. And thank you to ESA and Fondazione Amaldi for inviting me to this panel discussion. I'm Yuri Poletto. I am an insurance innovation advisor, partner of the Italian InsurTech Association, which is the association of reference in Italy for InsurTech. And I'm the founder of the Open and Embedded Insurance Observatory.
Okay, thank you, Yuri. And Raffaele Riva, if you want
Yes,
to...
good morning, everyone, and thanks also for the invitation to Fondazione Amaldi and ESA. I'm Raffaele Riva. I'm the head of PNC Business Management Italy. That means the post-sale activity relevant to Swiss Re in Italy. I'm member of the claims leadership team EMEA of Swiss Re. And Swiss Re, as you can imagine, is a reinsurance, one of the top reinsurance in the world that is globally located. So we are, in our model, we are B2B and B2C approach. So we are extremely interested in a matter like this. And as additional role, I'm the chair of the international, I would say, project called Rushlicon Italy, that are the intent just to connect all the insurance broker and reinsurance in Italy for the exchange of administration data.
Okay, thank you. And Lorenzo Scatena, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. I'm not gonna, because already Leonora made it, and I'm Secretary General of Fondazione Amaldi and Ambassador for the 2 programs I mentioned before. So I want to, let's say, steal time to the discussion and move on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo. So let's start with the first round of questions. I'd like to start with Gianluca Lorenzi, head of Reale Lab 1828. So Reale Lab is an innovation hub for insurance and related services. We can say that innovation means finding new and innovative solutions to the needs and pains that a sector or a client in general is facing. In the case of the insurance sector, what are your current needs and pains that need to be addressed and solved? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Well, that's a real wide question. We are plenty of issues that and pains that we need to solve, but I will try to just summarize briefly the main that I think are quite close to the matter that we are discussing today. First of all, the insurance industry is facing a phase where we have a strong need for transforming and digitalize our business. We are a very traditional business. We started as a financial business, and we are now learning to move to a customer-centric approach. So the first thing that we need to do is that one. One of the main reasons of this is that the demand from the customer base, the clients now, is to be close to the company they work with, apart from the industry they come from. But if you think about the industry like insurance, we just have really few touch points, and actually they are not very good touch points. You ask to the client's money for a coverage to just have that are based on the fear that something bad will happen. This is the reality of the insurance business. And then the second touch point that is, thanks God, not that frequent, is when you need to deal with the client to assess the claims. So actually the relation with the clients is based on an assumption that is we care about you, but the real way we interface with the clients is really not that nice building or nice builded. So this is a starting point. So what's going on since years? We are trying to transform the claims management in a service first, and it's quite a long time, not just being good payers, but being a service company solving problems of the people. This is one of the trends that we are trying to address. The second one is, the second step is that you can use claims also to optimize processes and experience for the client. So just make some example. If you can have an early detection, you are doing good for your profit and loss being an insurance company, because you decrease the dimension of the claims, but you are servicing very, very well the client because you are decreasing the problem that they have to face. So in some cases, the early detection is one path in that direction, but there is something that we are aiming, and then I'm lying to the matter of the AI and the InsurTech world. We could shift to prevention. We could shift our role from good payers to life partners, helping people to avoid to have the need of being paid for the claims or the damages that they are living in their life, the problems. So going back to the topic that we are discussing today, the space economy and the InsurTech. Well, from my point of view, space economy, it's the option that we have to increase our capability to make this path. We have different areas where we could work. I mean, underwriting. In the underwriting processes, we are a data-driven kind of industry, and space economy can help us to gather a lot of additional information that could be really useful, both to increase the efficiency, both to increase our capability to address the risk. Can you imagine the agricultural or the building industry with the possibility to make underwriting not by Earth or by maps, but with real-time images? Actually, I have to share with you that we are already testing some use cases like this with some space company, and we are trying to understand how can we optimize the underwriting with the enrichment of data and using AI to discover which is the real entity of the damage or something like that. Can you imagine that? It's one part. Then there is the claims management. Again, if we need to estimate which is the claims dimension in wide part, like in agricultural again, or in building, space economy and space support data can help us a lot. And these are just processes focusing kind of matters. I just put in 1 second the wider and bigger topic that we are all interested in, that is the climate change. And this is for sure another huge topic, but it's the more common that we are all trying to address. And I guess, again, that space economy could help a lot in addressing and developing new services. But I rely on the possibility to integrate with this also for the cybersecurity and new risk that could be rising. So I'm really convinced that space economy could be a very relevant partner for the insurance industry to develop this path of evolution of new services and addressing new risks, both optimizing our processes, both giving us the occasion to develop a new way to service our client better. I think that we have really short time, and so I guess I already done all my time. So I leave the floor to the others, and maybe we will discuss even more further.
Thank you, Gianluca, for your overview of the needs and pains that affects so many companies, startups, SMEs of the sector, of the insurance sector. So about this, I would like to introduce the next speaker, who will able to tell us more in details about this ecosystem. So Yuri Poletto, partner and head of Open Insurance Observatory of the Italian InsurTech Association. The Italian InsurTech Association is the leading association for innovation and digitalization in the insurance sector, bringing together a large number of InsurTech companies. So discussing with your network of companies, what are the needs and of the insurance sector that emerge most frequently among them, and what are those needs that are hard to find a solution to? So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, hi, Giorgia. Thank you for the question. Yes, at Italian InsurTech Association, we have the privilege of being in the middle of the Italian insurance and InsurTech ecosystem. We have now over 200 members, including all or almost all the insurance groups, reinsurance groups, international brokers, InsurTechs, and service providers in general operating in Italy. And what I can say here is that, like all industries nowadays, insurance businesses are facing a very quick changing landscape, competitive landscape. And this change is driven by the transformation that is affecting the way people live and businesses do business. And COVID-19 acted as an accelerator of this change. And although the insurance sector proved to be adaptable to this changing landscape, traditional insurers have historically lagged behind other sectors in their digitalization efforts due to several reasons, including IT and capital constraints and the traditional risk aversion of insurers. One of the main drivers of change in insurance is data. In the last 10 years, thanks to the digitalization and the internet particularly, the number of data available to insurers has incredibly increased. And today we have infrastructures, technologies, tools that didn't exist in the past, and that enable the insurance industry to share those data in real time also, and to transform those data into insights that they can use to take better business decisions. Just think that by early 2020, mankind had produced approximately 44 zettabytes of data, which means 44,000 billions of bytes. And over 90% of those data had been produced in the last 5 years. So it's a lot of data in a very limited frame of time. And those data come from several sources, of which satellites are one of the most promising. One of those where insurers are investigating opportunities and investing research and development budgets. So we can say that there was a time when insurers had their business strategy and a separate portfolio of digital activities. Today, this approach is changing. Today, digital, and when I say digital, I include obviously data, digital data. Digital and digital data are part of the core of each business activity within a modern insurance company. And IT functions, data functions, which were used to be in charge of digital projects, data projects, specifically to address specific issues of the company, Today, they are the enablers of the overall company business strategy. So, based on my personal knowledge and the knowledge that we have been acquiring over our webinars, our researches with the insurers that are part of Italian InsurTech Association, we can say that the main tasks that CEOs, CTOs, and Chief Data Officers are challenged with are improving operational efficiency, improving customer engagement, developing new products and services, deploying new digital solutions with a quicker and accelerated go-to-market, building their own API platforms to enable data-powered solutions like digital ecosystems or beyond insurance proposition, and in general improve their capacity of capturing, storing, and using data. And in consequence of this, the areas where we see an increasing pace of investments from insurers are the area of automation, and this happens in several business areas like customer service, claims handling, underwriting. The area of connected API-based platforms, security and privacy, that are very important when we talk about data and analytics, obviously, open insurance, embedded insurance, and the most interesting and promising technologies in this moment for the insurance industry are cloud, IoT, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and obviously APIs that enable a big part of the new models and the data sharing.
Okay, thank you, Yuri, for your interesting input. So after discussing the issues and challenges of the sector and the need to innovate to solve these challenges, I would like to introduce the next speaker to talk about the meaning of innovation and his vision. So Raffaele Riva, head of PNC Business Management Italy. Talking about innovation, there is a substantial difference between improving something that already exists and disruptive innovation that generates a big change. So in your opinion, is an insurance company and the insurance sector in general ready for this kind of innovation? And what are, in your opinion, the ingredients of a disruption innovation recipe? Thank you.
Thanks, Georgia. It's a tricky question, obviously, but I can also liaise with what also Lorenzo told before. Let me start saying that disruption has become a cool expression who tend to encompass several meanings today. Probably for the sake of alignment, we can make reference to what Clayton Christensen, who elaborated this theory in 1997 in his book Innovator Dilemma, told. He referred, I would say, with disruption innovation to the innovation capable of creating value in such a new way to upset an existing market, make the market suddenly obsolete, so to create a new market. So it's something that is tremendously changed. Probably in his book, he made reference also to the sustaining innovation, that is evolution of a sector. So what I see today, just to answer to your question, is that in the insurance sector, it's a big effort toward the sustaining innovation and evolution of the market, probably because the insurance market are realized that differently could just be disrupted or being heavily resized. So it's, if you ask me, obviously, if this is enough or not, probably the question is certainly not, because we are not there. There is still a lot of work to do. Just to give you an information, and Yuri can testify it, a recent survey that was made also conducted by InsurTech Association, I would say, and other bodies, discovered that in insurance sector, there is a significant gap of digital and tech competencies among employees. So in this respect means that probably we need to cooperate to find other way, other path for supporting the knowledge growth of the people. And exactly what I have seen is that there was a big jump that was made when the insurance and reinsurance sector decided to systematically include in satellite data as a crucial reference in their decision. Since then, what we are observing is an incremental use of this type of data, which certainly will make always more accurate the work on risk management, risk assessment, and claims management, as also Lorenzo told. For us, it's absolutely key for insurance and reinsurance sector to have this kind of data. If you ask me, the main ingredient for innovation, in my view, could be, in my humble view, could be always the same. It could be banal, but it's a multidisciplinary approach allowing to integrate different perspective and experience. So probably it could be rhetorical to say, but we need exactly to learn from the satellite, the ability to look at 360 degrees and well beyond the horizon. So it's the reason why I think that exactly partnership between space and insurance sector and be able in the past month will be able to grant a modernization of the activity with a mutual benefit of both the sector, but especially for the society, exactly of the customer, as Lorenzo told. And for this, I think that we have to warmly recommend to continue in pursuing the confrontation like this, a cooperation like we are seeing, for example, in this week. As last point, probably the question is it's a provocative question. If we have explored all the space within the space, saying if there are other areas of cooperation, because normally we are concentrating exactly on climate change, agriculture, on other stuff, but are there other areas of cooperation? Because this can obviously give a boost also to the insurance and reinsurance sector for creating new product.
Okay, thank you, Raffaele, for sharing with us your vision of innovation. And now I would move to analyze the central topic of this panel, also introduced by Raffaele, which is the interaction between space and insurance. So I would like to leave the floor to the next speaker. So thank you, Lorenzo Scatena, Secretary General of Amaldi Foundation and Ambassador of Incute Plus and as a business application programs. So this side event has been proposed by Amaldi Foundation to present the interaction between two apparently so distant worlds, so the space and the insurance sector. So from what comes this strong interest in the insurance sector, and on what basis was it chosen to focus on it so much? Thank you.
Thank you, Giorgia. I mean, as our previous speakers already said, and it is the difficult task of Amaldi Foundation, it is not easy to mediate between sectors that, although not apparently distant, don't speak the same language and use different metrics and values. This is perfectly the case of the insurance sector, which certainly already makes use of satellite data, but which do not want to can't borrow from the world of space just technologies, so much as they want to borrow better solutions, better disruptive solutions, if possible. The foundation, the Amaldi Foundation, is a data-driven organization, which means that the choice of the insurance sector and InsurTech sector was the result of a careful preventive monitoring of technological trends. And in this search, the most innovative ones in terms of both capital invested, number of technology startups, moved us to focus on InsurTech. Moreover, InsurTech trend is clearly influenced by the relevance of the issue of climate change, often with disastrous results, which require a predictive approach. And so also for insurance instruments, such as smart contracts, which require a technology-oriented approach in a substantially, I guess, different way compared to what happened in the past. From these aspects comes the interest of the Amaldi Foundation for InsurTech sector and insurance sector in general to space sector and vice versa. I have to add also that the entry of foreign players, as our colleague Poletto will be able to confirm, make this in the Italian market, makes this integration process more effective and fast. Because by affecting, let's say, the comfort zone of traditional insurance business, it pushes the same insurance sector to seek new solutions and business models, in my opinion, to increase the so-called, hope it is a fair translation, penetration rate. In addition, InsurTech is a sector that has an attentive and proactive players, such as Reale Lab, 1828, and Swiss Re, of course, with intermediate bodies very attentive also to technological innovations. However, one of these is here with us, is the Italian InsurTech Association. So that are more or less, these are the reasons why we decided to focus on the InsurTech sector as relevant of interest for space.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo, for your interest.
I hope that the co-panelists will agree on that, you know. Thank you.
Yes, sure.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo, for your interesting contribution and for showing us and let us understand the link between the space and the insurance sector. So we have time to for another round of questions. So I would continue to ride the way of this topic. And so Gianluca Lorenzi, in Reale Lab 1828, you have several areas of innovations, from artificial intelligence to machine learning to IoT and blockchain technologies. So all now are integrating the traditional insurance approach. So what type of lesson learned would we take from this project to define a possible path for deeper integration between insurance and space sector?
Thank you, Georgia. Well, I guess that, as I said at the beginning, we are in a very strong transformation period, but also the other panelists are saying things that I share really a lot. There's something that we need to learn, and we cannot do that completely alone. InsurTech actually is the sector of new startups, new initiatives that are overtaking a gap that is still existing, like Yuri underlined it perfectly, between the industry itself and the digitalization, a bridge to reach the client with new ways and so on. Which are the lessons learned that we can put in place? That we need to learn to test. We need to develop different architectures, IT architectures inside the companies, because if you want to open yourself outside, you need to just move away from the legacy and the difficulty of integration of different technologies with your internal processes. This is a very first lesson that we need all to implement. But this is not only an IT architectural point of view, it must be an organizational change. I mean, we work, most of us, we are just starting to introduce agile way of working into our industry or companies. Meanwhile, historically, we were working with a traditional demand management with long-term planning. You cannot move in innovation doing this kind of approach. You need to iterate, you need to get fast, you need to learn, you need to make POC, you need to make mistake and learn from the mistake. You were putting some of the part of the technology that are relevant for Reale Lab, but so for the strategy of the group, but we have also a lot of area that are business area. Our attitude and approach is really to cross technology and business area because at the touch point of these two different kind of topic that we try to address, you can find new ideas or new opportunity. There was Raffaele demanding for a new possible way of using the satellite data or the space technology to integrate our processes. Well, from my personal point of view, there are a lot. It's changing a lot of paradigms. The mobility paradigms is changing completely. The mobility as a service is rising up. The autonomous driving is rising up. We need to address new services and to manage the underwriting and the risk of this new way of being, of living. And for sure, space economy could be part of the process. You were quoting, Georgia, blockchain. Blockchain is based on oracles, smart contracts, output, apart from the distributed ledger and the philosophy behind it. Actually, it's just the optimization of a process with legal value and starting from the oracles. Well, satellite are oracles certified that could get into this automation of processes. And so empowering even further the blockchain technology. Think about parametrics kind of coverage. Think of that in the agricultural world, maybe. Well, you can have a better underwriting and you can have a full automatized management of the claims, leveraging on space economy and blockchain, combining the two technology. We need to learn to be flexible. This is the lesson learned. We need to be able to connect the dots. This is what innovation could be. I mean, we don't need to invent something from scratch, completely brand new. This is not what we can do. We are not that kind of industry. We are not Google X, sorry. But we should learn how to reuse and adapt and optimize for our needs that we can discover around the world, and it's plenty of that, but it's what it's going a lot. Then the disruption could arrive, but could arrive as a result, not as an objective. There are a lot of different trends that could change a lot from ourselves. So the big lesson learned is be part of this kind of panels, be open to outside, share your ideas, and just pay attention to the ideas of the other, and then test incrementally, try to integrate into your processes. Meanwhile, you need to develop your internal capability to evolve. This is what we need to do from my personal point of view, and we are trying to do in Reale Group in the insurance industry.
Okay, thank you again, Gianluca, for defining the path that these two words that seem so distant can follow together. So keeping on talking about innovation and innovative projects, I would turn the floor over to the next speaker, Yuri Poletto. So on several emergency occasions, it has been demonstrated how useful, if not necessary, a new approach on the use of satellite data is. So in your network of InsurTech companies, is there anyone who is developing or has already developed innovative solutions integrating satellite data? And if so, if you can give us some examples. Thank you.
Yes, sure, George. Thank you. All the big insurers today are looking at satellite as a source of reliable, high-quality data, particularly in some areas like crop and agriculture insurance, property insurance, cargo, aviation, for the management of natural perils like drought, wind, rainfall, flood. After the recent Suez Channel incident and the disruption of supply chains driven by that incident and by the COVID pandemic, another area that is being increasingly explored by insurers is the one related to all the solutions for the supply chain insurance, where real-time data from satellites can enable a better risk management and prevention, and can also enable the development of new parametric insurance policies, for example. Just to make an example, Autonomy is a US-based InsurTech specializing in parametric insurance solutions for the cargo insurance market, also leveraging on satellite data. When we talk about satellite data, and in general data from non-traditional sources, or that can come in formats that insurers are not familiar with, an important role to make the connection between satellite data and insurers is played by the tech and InsurTech companies that we define enablers. They are those companies, those subjects that through the application of modern technologies like big data analytics and artificial intelligence, transform data into insights. Insights that enable insurers taking best business decisions, which is the ultimate purpose of data. I was speaking a few weeks ago with the CEO of one of the most important data companies operating in insurance. They use massively satellite data to inform business decisions in insurance industry. And he told me with a bit of frustration, I have to say, that insurers see the potential, the big potential in using satellite data, but today there is still an important digital divide. What do I mean? I mean that this CEO told me that often they can provide the satellite data to insurers, but as the tech systems of insurers do not speak the same language of these companies that are more advanced, they end up providing those data in Excel spreadsheets, which doesn't make any sense nowadays. So there is this big digital divide that needs to be fixed to make satellite data work and produce value for insurers, and ultimately for the market. In terms of use cases, case histories, I would like to mention 3 cases. Descartes Underwriting, a French MGA that recently started collaborating with the Italian Assicurazioni Generali. They offer satellite data-enabled parametric insurance products. An example of one of their solutions is a drought product for a French agriculture cooperative. The daily satellite surveys inform Descartes about the soil, moisture, and vegetation development, and this enables the client, the French cooperative, to receive a compensation within a few days of the trigger being reached. The trigger is the event that make the parametric coverage work. Another example is the recent partnership between Swiss Re and ISI, that is a member of Italian InsurTech Association, by the way, and they are a satellite data company based in Northern Europe. ISI is the largest commercial synthetic aperture radar satellite operator and a flood monitoring provider. And the partnership will advance Swiss Re's natural catastrophe services by enabling early warning systems and near real-time flood monitoring built on ISI's flood monitoring capabilities with their satellite imaging. So this partnership initially is focusing on floods, and it is intended in the early future to expand to other perils like wildfires, wind, earthquake damages. And a news that appeared just yesterday in the news, Lloyd's, the UK insurance market, have made a partnership with McKinsey Intelligence, which is an InsurTech and UK-based InsurTech that provides satellite data. And through this partnership, Deloitte will avail of the access to the multi-source intelligence platform of McKinsey Intelligence to drive better underwriting business decisions.
Okay, thank you, Yuri, for these interesting testimonials. So remaining on the topic of innovation and innovative project in the insurance sector, I would leave the floor to Raffaele Riva. You are the Italian manager of Rashki Ligon, I don't know how it's pronounced. A project for the digitalization of technical and accounting transmissions between insurance brokers and reinsurers through the implementation of processes that reduce operating costs and improve services. So can you tell us which kind of lesson learned could we take from this project to define a possible path for deeper integration between insurance and space sectors? Thank you.
Thanks, Georgia. Probably I can quickly explain what is Ruslicon Italy with this exotic name. Ruslicon is a global organization composed by the main insurers, reinsurance and brokers that decided 12 years ago to give the life to, I would say, a synergy in this respect for introducing in the market standard and digitalization for all the end-to-end processes of the insurance sector. So from the policy to the reinsurance. It is clear that it's an ambitious project and now is concentrated on the reinsurance part. So the segment of the exchange, the data exchange between insurers, broker and reinsurers. As I told, it's ambitious because historically the digitization of the reinsurance and insurance industry was always organized on a peer-to-peer connectivity basis. So with Ruslicon, now there is support to the initiatives that is quite pioneering as Italy, because it's the first project in the world that was accepted, where there is the idea to establish an hub connectivity in the Italian market. So a sort of ecosystem where all the companies, insurers, I would say broker and reinsurers are interconnected through a platform. So this approach will ease obviously the exchange of validated message and with other business partners. Once this should be successful as experience, apart the obvious advantages, but this hub approach could serve as a role model. So this experience gathered in Italy will help and could be replicated also as approach in other markets. What are the main probably lessons learned from this experience that presumably can be applicable also in the integration between space and insurance sector? First of all, what we have seen that there was a big need of the standard language. And needless to say, and probably it's quite banal to be said, but like we normally interact in English because it's the common language in the world, now in the past someone taught to Esperanto, we have to invent a sort of Esperanto in our communication, because when we speak about one data, we have to attribute to this data all the same meaning. This is the story. What we experience is exactly that, even if we are all in the same sector, insurance and reinsurance sector, sometimes happen, or more often happen, that this is not the case. So we do not take for granted that one thing is equal for all. So also for the communication between space and non-space user, create a standard, or I would say common language, helps a lot in facilitating and speeding data exchange and analysis. This is the first aspect. Another not secondary aspect is that any change, we speak about evolution or disruption, but every change in the market needs the participation of all the players. Or it's something that happened out of the market, so creating disruption exactly, or if it's something that make an evolution of the market, needed all the players play all as one, to be a sort of system. There are strategy and goals that can be pursued individually, obviously, but in a complex world like where we are living, it's becoming a must to create, I would say, a sort of the system where that can be increased the importance of the market per se and also its own position. The famous proverb where if the ants agree they can move an elephant is extremely valid in this respect. We are living without a doubt a unique and extraordinary period, and using space data means becoming more relevant also on the Earth too. It is clear. It is not incidental, for example, that in our project we adopted a motto that I think can be applicable also in the interaction between space and non-space user. Alone we go fast, together we go far. So I think that it's important just to realize that it's important to have individual initiative, but probably also following the idea, the scope that Amaldi Foundation have. It's important to create this kind of synergy as a systematic approach for creating exactly a system, an ecosystem in this respect. So I appreciate a lot this kind of approach.
Okay, thank you, Raffaele. So we talked about the need to deepen the synergy between these two sectors. So in this regard, I would like to give the floor to Lorenzo Scatena. So Lorenzo, the Amaldi Foundation is a supporter of technology transfer processes. So how can it encourage and stimulate this union? And are there financial instruments to support companies in order to encourage the use of space technologies in technological projects belonging to traditional sectors such as insurance? And what is the way forward? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Georgia. Yes, okay, first let me say that as Foundation, we are here to help to close the gap of the digital divide previously mentioned, and to try to foster new approaches now to solve this kind of problems in terms of, let's say, communication. ESA, the European Space Agency, and the Italian one are the Italian Space Agency too, are both entities very interested in the InsurTech sector, and more generally making the non-space sector aware of the opportunities offered by space assets. The foundation has it in its DNA, let's say, rather in its statutory mandate, that of trying to create lasting relationships between space and non-space communities. And this is only the first of a series of events, which we culminate with the New Space Economy Expo Forum between the 9th and 11th December this year, in which we will meet again our co-panelists to explore deeper what happened after this first round of discussion of the debate. The programs for which the Fondazione Amaldi is ambassador, let's say Business Application and Q+, which I suppose they will talk about in the next panel, because we have here a representative of the PhilHub and specifically the Q+ program, are the tools for the creation of pilots useful for strengthening the participation of non-space users in space programs, both directly through participatory consortia and indirectly, creating the conditions and the opportunity to involve the big players in a functional relationship with the space and let's say procurement that normally afflict this relationship. ISAI, that has been mentioned before, which is like a very, very famous, let's say, space company, and with Swiss Re, if I'm not wrong, made a deal directly with RSI. It's just one of the example we can take to relationship, stronger relationship. To overpass this kind of problems of engagement based on technological different language or a different business approach. It is a question of carrying out, in my opinion, a venture building process mechanism, in which on the one hand, the insurance world, the InsurTech world must express its needs, well, like they are now our panelists doing during this event. And on the other, that space companies must seek solutions that are not necessarily only technological oriented, but business oriented. I mean, this is like a very essential topic. The keyless or the car sharing service is based on keyless technology, of course, but there is no new business with a new technology. Now you need a different business approach to catch new needs coming from customers. So that's it, more or less, my opinion. Because I want to hear the final remarks from each one of the speakers, so I don't want to spend more time on this question. This is more or less my opinion on what is the way forward, as you asked. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo, and thank you again to all the speakers for the very interesting contributions and insights. So it's almost 10 o'clock, so I would conclude this panel, the first one of this side event. So I would like to thank again all the speakers for their contributions, and I would also like to thank the audience who followed this panel online. And so I now would leave the floor to my colleague Valerio Roscani for the second panel of this side event. Thank you.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Okay, thank you, Giorgia, and welcome everyone to this second panel of this Phiweek side event, Space for InsurTech Solutions Offered by Space. So I would like also to invite the speakers to turn on the camera if they have didn't done so. So we listened to the speakers of the previous panel about the needs of InsurTech, and we now move to the solutions offered by Space. I am Valerio Roscani, technology analyst at the Amaldi Foundation, and I will be moderating this panel. So with me are Domenico Grandoni, head of Big Data Analytics and Artificial Intelligence at Igeos. Ciao Domenico. Michele Castorina, end-to-end EU system engineer at Philab Invest Office at the European Space Agency. Giorgio Ricciardi, technologist at the Italian Space Agency. And Lorenzo Scatena, Secretary General at the Amaldi Foundation and ambassador of the programs InQ+ and ESA Business Applications. So thank you all for being here with me today. It's a great pleasure. And I would like to leave the floors to the speakers for our first round of introductions. So we can start from Giorgio, if you please.
Hi, hello everybody. I'm Giorgio Ricciardi and I'm a technologist at the Italian Space Agency. I have an experience of more than 10 years in developing algorithm for extracting information from Earth observation data, mainly using artificial intelligence. I spend most of my life into university and research center, among which Amaldi Foundation was one of those. And now, as I said, I joined the Italian Space Agency in the downstream and application unit. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Giorgio. Domenico, if you want.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I'm Domenico Grandoni, currently head of the Big Data Analytics and AI Competence Center in Aegeos. I'm an environmental engineer, started in the space business more or less 13 years ago. And after having contributed to build new geoinformation applications, mainly in the European domain, so Copernicus, so the emergency management service, contributing to the security service and the land one, I was then seeing the shift of geoinformation from delivering maps to build systems that are able to crunch massive amount of data and deliver analytics. And so I moved into this domain of building cloud and analytic platforms. And here I am in this role supporting the development of applications through technology.
Okay, thank you, Domenico. Michele, you want to continue?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Michele Castorina, and I work in the Invest office of the Philab in Esrin in Frascati. I'm an electronic engineer, so I've been working in the aerospace sector for the last 15 years, and mostly on commercial activities. So we support activities from upstream to downstream, and we also work actually a lot on with companies in the downstream part using observation data in the Philab. And thank you for having me today here.
Thanks to you, Michele. And Lorenzo, if you want again to introduce yourself.
It's me again. No, don't really, guys, don't waste time on this topic. So thanks to all the panelists, and go on, Valerio, with your questions. So.
Okay, so thanks to all the speakers for their introduction, and I will start with the questions. So the first one is for Giorgio. So Giorgio, you spent several years working in the field of Earth observation, with a particular focus on the use of multispectral and hyperspectral images, together with artificial intelligence. So in your career, you have certainly developed solutions for the InsurTech sector. Can you give us some examples or what can be done with these technologies at the moment?
Okay, thanks, Valerio. Well, yes, indeed, I spent a lot of efforts on developing Earth observation-based solution. And I have to admit that Earth observation is going to be a very important tool supporting the insurance company, as we also stated in the previous roundtable. In terms of support that Earth observation can give to insurance company, we see that in the past, aerial photography were used to assess damages produced by natural disasters. However, at the beginning, the use of this kind of solution were too expensive because were made by airplane. So it was not comparable with the use of adjusters on the field. And so the use was limited to very few cases. For instance, to assess the damages produced to property grouped in the same area, such as during a tornado, such as similar to Katrina. However, with the advent of more and more Earth observation mission, particularly with the new freely available one, such as the Sentinel or the Copernicus program, but also, and I have to promote our activity, also the satellite that are hosted by the Italian Space Agency, and in particular the Prisma hyperspectral sensor, and the next to come Prisma second generation and the Shalom 1. It's now possible to have a coverage of the globe every 4 and 5 days with an incredible rich variety of data. As said, from multispectral to hyperspectral to SAR and also to meteorological data. All this data perfectly fits with the needs of the insurance market, as we said before. For instance, I said very high resolution satellite images can be used to detect and estimate the damages produced by natural disaster, such as during the Katrina hurricane. However, one of the most important insurance market sector where the Earth observation data can be fully exploited, I think is the agricultural insurance market, both in terms of risk analysis and damage assessment. Well, indeed, the very high spectral, and also temporal resolution of this kind of data permits to have a very detailed information in terms also of time series, describing the evolution, for instance, of the crop. So it could be possible to model their growth parameter and then estimate the possibility of harvesting loss. In a similar way, Earth observation can also be used to model the effect and the frequency of extreme weather events, mainly produced by natural event. And consequently, it is possible to, from the point of view of insurance company, it's possible to determine personalized premium to apply to a customer to the other, depending on the location and the frequency that they have these extreme events. Well, before joining the Italian Space Agency, I had the honor to lead a startup, which main product was to develop a software that assess the crop damages due to natural disaster and extreme weather events. The software were based on the combination of artificial intelligence and Earth observation, and also metadata, and deliver an accurate crop damage estimation few days after the event that can be in support and can give insight to the claim management process of the crop insurance company. Well, in particular, this system was able to detect damages produced by events like several types of events, such as hailstorms, floodings, wildfire, tornadoes, or even droughts. This allows insurance company to reduce not only the cost related to the user, but to determine accurately what was the amount of the damages produced to the field. And in this way, it was also possible to detect the potential frauds produced by the owner of the fields. So there are, just to conclude, there are several potential applications that can be applied to the insurance market using Earth observation data. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Giorgio, for your technological point of view. So my second question is for Michele Castorina. So hi, Michele. So for what concern the Philab, Philab has Earth observation as its main vertical, but there is also strong interest in other disruptive technologies such as artificial intelligence. So what are the core activities of Philab, and are any of them of interest for the InsurTech sector?
Thank you for the question, Valerio. At the Philab in Frascati, we do many activities. So the Philab explores and applies transformative technology to Earth observation. This is our objective. So we want to accelerate the research and develop of innovations, and we really want to help to solve some of the biggest challenges that we have through the use of Earth observation. And this we do through the two parts of the Philab. So we have different steps in the Philab. So one part in which we start to discover new technology, another part in which we are trying to explore these good ideas and we want to fail fast. This is really what we want to achieve. So really testing new technologies and new ideas and fail fast. And in case there is a fail, we learn from the fail. In case there is opportunities, we try to develop and mature these solutions. And then this is the second part, which these ideas, which are somehow not directly linked to some commercial outcomes, but more for science and for basic research, can be then used in the second part of the Philab, which is the more market-oriented part. And this is where I work for, so the invest part, in which we have a specific program which help developing commercial ideas and to foster entrepreneurial initiatives, and then also have companies to enter into the market. For what concern your demand, yes, we do specific activities for the InsurTech sector, and specifically in the second in this second part of the Philab, so the invest, we see some interest from startup and established companies in Europe to develop specific activities and algorithms and technologies and products for this sector. Of course, whatever is also used in the science part can be reused for specific applications in the InsurTech. And in the Philab, we also have the opportunity to also help industries to stay even for some time in the Philab and to work with our postdoc and our researchers to develop together algorithms that can then help industrial ecosystem to grow and to develop the most advanced technologies. And most of these, of course, are using artificial intelligence. More specifically, most of the time is deep learning to Earth observation data.
Okay, thank you, Michele, for this overview of the activities of Philab. So a second question for Giorgio that I know needs to leave earlier. So this second question is for you again. Okay, so satellite technologies have proven to be very useful in dealing with the repercussion of COVID-19 pandemic. A study using EO data and artificial intelligence, which you are part of, demonstrate this. So can you tell us a little more in detail what it is about, and can it be of any interest for the insurance industry as well?
Yes, thanks, Valerio. Well, there is this work that we are presenting also today at the Philab. There is a rolling e-poster in the YouTube channel. This is a study we run with colleagues of CNR and the Amaldi Foundation about the correlation between the spread of COVID-19 and the air pollutant present in the northern part of Italy, in particular in the Lombardy region. This because we started this work because we identified an anomalous behavior of the spread of the disease in the Lombardy region. And yes, this event attracted our attention. So we started to analyze data from the hypothesis, that being this area one of the most polluted in Europe, there might be some kind of correlation between the pollution and the spread of a possible respiratory disease. So in that work, we use data provided by the Copernicus service, obtained with both satellite and also in situ measurement, that were able to describe the concentration of different type of air pollutant in that area with a very high temporal resolution. We also consider environmental data such as temperature, humidity, and wind speeds. And in terms of epidemiological point of view, we try to compare these data with the number of people affected by the disease, by the COVID disease, the day-by-day increase of the insurgence of the symptom, and also the insurgence of the symptom. And this analysis was carried out at a province level. So we analyze the progression of the disease during the very first period where there was no imposition to wear a face mask, so there was more easy transmission by air during that period. What we discovered is that during that period, there was a great correlation between the concentration of PM10 and PM2.5 and the peaks of the insurgence of the symptoms after 8 to 10 days after this great big pollution events. Well, obviously, we identified a clear correlation, but not obviously the causality of the problem. Indeed, it has been already demonstrated that coronavirus can travel, can be transported by aerosols through the air, but usually ultraviolet radiation kills after a few seconds this virus. However, what we also identified is that in some periods, especially when there was the great pollutant concentration, there were also optimal environmental conditions for the survival of this virus, such as an high level of humidity and low temperature. Indeed, the spread was in February, so the conditions were optimal. And also, we came up with the hypothesis that an high concentration of particulate matter may have may function as a filter to the ultraviolet radiation. So this blocked the ultraviolet radiation and allow the coronavirus to survive more. And then there was probably this correlation between the spread of the virus and the pollutant agent. Now, this is just an example of how Earth observation can support the insurance sector. You can imagine now how this kind of approach can be used also in terms of risk management to determine, for instance, the health insurance premium of people residing in a certain area, also based on these environmental parameters. So also in this case, there are potential area where Earth observation can give their contribute to the insurance sector. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Giorgio. So you can stay with us, so you can.
I need to leave. Many thanks.
Okay, thank you again for your contribution.
Bye.
So I have a question now for Domenico Grandoni. Hi, Domenico. So we heard some of the needs of the InsurTech sector directly from key players in the industry. So what is your opinion on what we heard and what is the state of the art of space technologies, especially NEO, for the InsurTech sector?
Okay, thanks a lot, Valerio, for the question. And I have to say that I was very interested in listening the previous panel, since as I was taught since I was young. Actually, the requirements, the end user requirements, is the most valuable information and asset that solution providers can have. And in fact, as it was in a certain sense in other domains, we are actually working with insurances even before I was joining the company. So we have a project with Anya on building actually a fact-based model for let's say insurance underwriting in early 2000. But requirements are not really changing. What is changing is how much and how far technology and solutions can match those requirements. I can really easily remember Bernardo de Bernardinis for emergency management service and civil protection stating his requirements in 2005 in the implementation group for the Copernicus emergency service. And these requirements have not changed over time. What is changing is how far we are able to meet those requirements with our products and services. Similarly, is what I heard in insurance, with the difference that there is a big move towards becoming service companies and towards digital, being more able to better satisfy customers in the two touch points that they have with insurances, that is underwriting and claim management. In this respect, what we see from our perspective as geospatial service provider and the data provider, since as you know, Ageos is the exclusive commercial distributor of Cosmos Skymed and Cosmos second generation SAR satellite data, that is the worldwide leading constellation providing high quality and highly accurate data globally. What we see is that actually technology is there. I just make an example that was not mentioned before, that is related to ground deformation through INSAR, so through interferometric analysis of radar data, which is now enabled by the plenty of data that are acquired today, both by institutional missions, like for instance the Sentinel-1, but also from commercial missions like Cosmos Skymed, the Cosmos second generation, ISI, of course, Capella, and all the other new space guys that are joining the market. Well, actually, we all know in the industry, in the space industry, that it is possible to monitor with high precision and accuracy sub-millimetric displacement of buildings, structures, and let's say all elements that can be recognized on the territory, as we had millions of distributed GPS or stations in the territory. Now, the point is, so what? So what can we do with these data that are available today, that are currently being produced with Sentinel-1 at European level, with the European Ground Motion Service, that is a European funded project that Ageos is delivering together with partners? Well, this is an important question because it relates on the way we link satellite and space data with needs from the industry. What an insurer or a reinsurer could do, knowing which is the deformation trends and the potential risk associated to this trend for buildings. This is not a trivial question, because it means in turning data into insight, as it was said before. And this cannot be done by space industry alone, because we are not in the business and we don't know the exact mechanics of the insurance business. And this is where we need actually entities that are working in the InsurTech to build together with us a valuable product, and most of all, a sustainable product that can be delivered at competitive market conditions in order to provide value and not a burden to the end users. And this is actually our commitment, so to decrease our cost and actually to make satellite-based services more accessible and usable in the value chain. I was making this example because very often, even when there are disasters related to infrastructures, we are called and by different institutions asking if we were able to see something. And the answer is clearly yes. Technology is there, you need to use it, and we need to find the conditions for you to use it. And this is why we have invested in a platform like CLEOS, Cloud Earth Observation Services, to make our data, products, and services accessible. First, through APIs, because we know that automation and the self-service is a key element in moving from a project-based approach to a product-based approach, and also enabling new business models like subscriptions. For instance, finding new way to ultimately sell and make available these products and services in a different way. Maybe you want to subscribe to the coverage on one city and you want to get updates every time there are one. And we are available to commit, for instance, to guarantee these updates and then work in having multiple subscriptions to this data and building ultimately a new way of delivering our business and services in the subscription economy. Another example that I wanted to make showing how also, let's say, not only Earth observation, but more space technologies can work together to deliver services. and is a service that we are delivering in France. It's called GeoAdventis, and it's related to datura and other infestance detection using drone imagery. So this is something that again is moving a bit ahead the frontier of exploiting new sources of data in a massive way, drones, so that is not using one single drone for one small survey, but for large area coverage, and inject them in a pipeline powered by artificial intelligence to detect datura that is a problem, like other infestants in agriculture. And that timely detection can provide really valuable information also for insurers, because this is actually an element, it's a pain point that can be addressed from space. And of course, using also satellite navigation and positioning for the end-to-end service. Last is about logistic and shipment. I was very touched by the example on Suez Canal, because it's true. It's true that these are problems. It's true that there are pain points, for instance, in for this Arctic shipping industry, where satellite can provide factual and objective data and information. We are all thinking about very large coverages, but there are also the possibility to do very high frequent site monitoring. So moving from the large scale to the very small scale of sites, and observing a lot of different features repeated over time, over also different times of the day, and delivering information that would not be able to be derived in a different way at affordable cost.
Okay, thank you, Domenico. This is very interesting from you and very insightful. So I will move on with another question for Michele Castorina. So Michele, you mentioned a program in the previous answer. I think is the InCube program, the InCube Plus program. This is an innovation funding program run by Philab. So this is definitely a valuable tool that aims to foster the emergence of EU data-driven solutions. So can you explain us how it works and whether you came across any interesting business cases for the InsurTech sector?
Yeah. Yes. InCube is it means investing in industrial innovation. So InCubed. So this is why it's called like this. Is a co-funded program of the agencies, which its aim and objective is to support the development of product and services in the Earth observation market. So what does it mean? Product and services can refer to anything from upstream, so from the satellite, from a subsystem of a satellite, up to what is in the middle, so ground stations and data distributions, up to the downstream, so the services, the applications, the algorithms, and whatever which is in between. So we can have end-to-end system as well. The good things about InCube is that is an agile program of the agency in which we try to accommodate what industry wants to do. So there is no statement of work. So industry comes to us, they propose an idea, and together we see if it fits the programmatic objectives of InCube, which are mainly 3. So it has to be innovative, so not already, so there should be some innovation. It can be innovation in terms of technology, in terms of process, in terms of business models. So innovation is quite wide, the way we interpret it. Then it should be commercial oriented. So we want to have really the customers, the future customers somehow in the loop. So this is quite important, and I will give some example for the InsurTech. So the customers has to somehow support the activity from the beginning. It's not a technology push program, it's rather a market pull program. And we really want to create solutions which are built around the customers, which we don't call anymore users, because of course, I mean, in the Earth observation sector, we talk a lot about users, but we really talk about customers, because at the end, they should be willing to buy something at the end of the activity. So they should be confident that whatever is provided and developed by the companies should be quite good for them. And the third thing, of course, you need to be in Europe and to work from Europe. So this is the European, let's say, footprint of the activities. The program is quite successful for Earth observation because we see a lot of changes in the last year. So as we have seen in the last data, we see that there is for the Earth observation markets, both from the terms of people working and in terms of also employees and also on revenues, we see a growth which is close to 10% on a year-on-year basis, and this is quite pushed both from the new space era and also from the public sector, which somehow is fostering with several programs in which InCube is one of this sector. And for the InsurTech market, we see a lot of opportunities in the future coming. Still, something is already existing, but we see, these changes in what satellite images will be in the future. So as you know, I mean, we always talk about the three types of resolution where we talk about Earth imaging. So spatial resolution, temporal resolution, and spectral resolution. Of course, there is always a balance between the three. And in the new space, we see a lot of increase for sure of the temporal resolution. So there are a lot of new players, both in the optical, in the radar, which are trying to have images more frequent. So having images of the same part on a daily basis. And this for sure could be of interest of the InsurTech market. Of course, also the applications is quite important. So also the spatial resolution and the spectral resolution, depending on the sector, can be quite important for determine the nice features which this type of market need to take care. In InCube, at the moment, we have two interesting activities in this sector. One from Ireland, it's called Cargo Port using Earth observation and GNSS. This is, let's say, an activity which is building on a product which was already existing, and they use Earth observation for the insurance and reinsurance market, specifically for ports. The activities is very interesting because at the end, what they want to do is, first of all, to have a right estimate of what is in the ports in a way that the insurer and reinsurer can make an estimate also in case of claims of damages in the port, which is not only based on what the insurer, the owner of the insurance will claim to the insurance company, but also on real facts. So, for example, they want to estimate how many cars are in a port, how many oil is stored in the ports, and how many cargoes are stored. Of course, their final aim is really to improve the estimation of the value which is in the port. Just to give you an example, one of their main customers which is working with them is AON, which is this, insurer company and insurer. And one of the main issues they were also claiming was, for example, where there were big hurricane which created the billions of damages, like Katrina in the US, was quite tough to estimate what was really in the ports, and so for them was a challenge to understand it. In this case, Earth observation and all the historical data of Earth observations, and maybe the use also of machine learning, will help to automatically identify risks, risk exposure for company, and also to adapt policies to the different customers they have, and to have somehow a dynamic policies. So this is quite an interesting activity which is close to an end and should be finished by the end of this year. Then we have another interesting activities always in InCubed, which is with an Italian company, which is a spin-off of a university. The company is, as I told you, based in Italy, and the activity is called Deep Property. What they want to do in this case is to apply Earth observation techniques, and more specifically machine learning, to the property market. So they found some future, let's say, customers that are willing to understand some specific features for the property market in order to provide insurance adapted to the specific context. So through the activities, they will develop specific algorithms of machine learning to detect, for example, I don't know, the footprint of a building, so how many square meters, if there is presence of, I don't know, solar panels and all different features. This, of course, will help insurance to have, as you are doing today, insurance in real time for cars. That at the moment it's not really done for the property market, or I mean, it can be done, but it's not based on factual aspects because you need to retrieve the data about the property you want to insure, and you cannot do real time at the moment. We see quite the interest of insurance companies, which even if they are claimed to be traditionals in their business models, they are quite keen on understanding and see how these new technologies could help them in reaching their objectives. And we hope that in the future more and more, because more sensors, more constellations, more data will be available, both from the institutional market, so both from ESA and the new Copernicus mission, and also from private ventures like those which are both building in US and also in Europe. We will have more and more data, and we hope that also the insurance market will have more interest, and there will be more downstream activities like these, which will support the exploitation of this data. Of course, I think one message I would like to pass, it's there should be also some interest also. One of the main issues at the end is not really the algorithms, but the sustainability of these services, because the images needs to be purchased and it's not always possible to use, artificial intelligence algorithm, for example, for change detection. Maybe high resolution images, which could be quite expensive. And the business model at the moment of the satellite operator do not fit always the needs of these insurers, which really want, for example, to have just the part of an image which relates to the specific assets they want to monitor. At the moment, we still see an approach which is quite an old approach, in which you need to buy a specific image, maybe on a specific area of interest, which is, I don't know, 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer, but maybe you just need 100 meters. So we need both to support the upstream sector to develop innovative business models for the downstream, and the downstream to develop algorithms, and also government maybe to have access to right images at a fair price, which can help the downstream market to flourish. Otherwise, we will always be blocked by the sustainability of these services. So that's all.
Okay, thank you, Michele, for all this information on IQ Plus and all these business cases and on your point of view. So I have another question for Domenico. So Domenico, satellite technologies are already being used in industry. So we can think of GPS in black boxes in the cars, or risk estimates for agriculture. So is there something more that can be done? As said by Raffaele Riva in the previous panel, are there unexplored areas where satellite data in general and EO data in particular could be a key asset?
Yeah, yes, indeed. Actually, this question a bit encompasses all the considerations that that have been made up until now. Because what I see from the perspective of a geoinformation service provider is that there are sectors that are quite well covered, and where there are use cases, examples, first demonstrations, initial services, and where the challenge, in my opinion, is to consolidate capabilities and build sustainable services, as it was a bit in the beginning of Copernicus, where it was clear that there were a lot of capabilities around, but what was missing was actually the conceptualization and definition of those service specifications that were the right ones that were addressing needs. So beyond these consolidated sectors, like agriculture was mentioned several times, and there are a lot of different declinations. So from large-scale support to underwriting and claim management through parametric insurances, really to small-scale single farm precision agriculture and infested detections, as I was saying before. But there are, in my opinion, some areas that can be really explored, and where there are not yet so many examples and not yet so many evidences. One, of course, is supply and logistics, and this was I was mentioning it before, and also Michele was adding some very interesting elements on all the objects that can be detected and that can be observed in multitemporal and repetitive way. And this is very important because it's providing data that were not able to be observed in a different way. Another point is also related to the ESG. So ESG indicators, environment, sustainability, and governance. And I believe that being able also to rank a company or a corporation on how it is performing in this respect is something that is very relevant. Climate change was mentioned. Climate change, of course, is not an application, but is a fact. And this fact is changing the way, for instance, return periods are calculated for extreme events. So now we know that with the effect of climate change, for instance, the rain that we could expect for a 10 years return period over a certain area is no more 10 years, is 5 years return period. And so we need also to adjust and update all the risk analysis that were made. And this is an area that, in my opinion, is really crucial, because if insurers are expecting the future to be similar to the past, well, this is not really the case. And so we need, and we can actually provide a lot of information using Earth observation and the models to enrich the way these assessments are made. So I'm really convinced that this point on climate change is crucial. And I want also to touch a point on health that was actually mentioned before, where also I see a lot of potential for growth for the use of Earth observation in the insurance sector, because health is something that is, let's say, in a certain sense, intangible in the number of variables that are relevant to actually assess the risk related to health. But these variables, let's say, in different geographies can be really observed. So actually, also on our side, we were making analysis of COVID-19 impact, not on health, but on, let's say, port logistics, using also Sentinel-5P data to see how, for instance, the level of emissions was changing in those areas. And this has a significant impact also on health, like the access for this. I mean, it's not the case for Italy, but in other parts of the world, like for instance, to, let's say, drinkable water, or the access to sanitation, to the presence of these infrastructures. And these are all elements that can be observed, like for instance, the growth of informal settlements in certain areas of Africa, Asia, and Latin America. These are all information and data that can be mapped, observed in an objective way. And this is also the relevance of linking satellite imagery with blockchain. Very often we are asked as EGEOS by judges to say, okay, are there any evidences, any data that can be used as an evidence in a judgment? And yes, there are. It is controverted because clearly we are registering metadata, But in this sense, blockchain could really give a boost on, let's say, the ownable usage of satellite imagery in different contexts. Last observation I want to make in this respect on where can we do most or where can we do more is in the fusion of satellite Earth observation data with other information, moving towards real-time applications. And to me, it's very interesting now the links that are being made between satellite Earth observation, but not only satellite, also aerial and drone, and data flows coming, for instance, from telecommunication companies on mobile phones that are providing really insights at very granular distribution and fine temporal distribution of people dynamics. So what people are doing, where people are going, stratified, of course, anonymized, of course, but they are providing a complementary view. Like, for instance, data coming from traffic and recorded by companies like TomTom, Octotelematics, and there are so many that are providing evidences and data that are totally from a complementary perspective with respect to satellite observations. And in the end, we are observing the same reality with different eyes, with different lenses. We are producing data that are totally complementary and that can actually cooperate to build innovative solutions moving towards real time. And I think that real time, for instance, are data coming from navigation system like Galileo, that of course are embedded into data coming from road traffic or mobile phones. The cooperation and the federation of this data can open the window actually for delivering, I will not use the word groundbreaking, but to really, let's say, innovative and useful evolution that can provide more tools to the customers, in this case, insurers and reinsurers, to better serve their customers, their end users. As a final remark, I recall I was working with a Japanese insurance company. They were really challenging us on requirements, specifically in terms of timeliness of delivery of information and accuracy of information, simply because they made a promise to their customers that was actually to be the best insurance in, let's say, closing claims really in a matter of hours or really one day. So they had to meet this promise, and they actually were transferring, they were flowing down this requirement to us, and it was our challenge to improve the efficiency of our service chain actually to meet these requirements and being able to provide value. Last is about sustainability. As a satellite data as a company commercializing satellite data, of course, we take very much into account what Michele was saying. That is, data must be affordable to make applications sustainable. This is where we are working. And for instance, just to mention, there was a very significant decrease in pricing for archive data that are very important for making historical analysis for Cosmos Climate and Cosmos Second Generation in the past year. And this is, in my opinion, one important move that we are making towards making the downstream service more sustainable and being at the pace of the time.
Okay, thank you, Domenico. So I would like to ask one final question for both of you, Michele and Domenico. I would ask to answer, to provide a telegraphic answer because we are running out of time. But the question is this one. So we have seen that InsurTech is certainly one of the sectors that can most benefit from Earth observation. So according to you, what disruptive technology based on AI and AO innovation of interest for InsurTech can we expect in the next 10 years? So maybe Michele can start.
Yeah, I think that I mean the use of artificial intelligence with observation data is what we should expect more and more in the for this sector. I think the more we, as I've said before, the more we see images as commodities rather than very expensive assets that needs to be purchased, and we see more and more these companies which just focus more to sell services and insights rather than images. We will see a growth in many sectors of the InsurTech, both in the asset trackings and then agriculture. And the more sensor, the more resolutions. So we are really going through a revolution in the Earth observation. We always say we are going through this perfect storm. So we will have constellation of hyperspectral satellites soon. We already see a SAR satellite like Capella Space and ISA in Europe. And more multispectral satellites which are coming and then try to build and to work in cooperation with Copernicus. So the more the data is there, the problem now is just really to help companies to create solutions for the InsurTech, which meets their demand. And I think that insurance is something that we will, will grow in the near future. We are much more connected. It's a sector which is growing. Everything now is using insurance, and the use of Earth observation data will for sure change the market somehow. And I think that the algorithms of artificial intelligence, deep learning will be really the way to go and the way we should invest in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Domenico?
So I put my bet €1, so don't not a big bet, but actually AI and Earth observation in the next let me say 10 years will cooperate a lot, and I see this very use case. So today we are all looking for evidences about claims, but sometimes we don't have enough detail from satellite. So we are using satellite also to merge with models to know about, for instance, the flood height, the flood velocity. What I see is that satellites will be able to provide a first view, and AI will process all satellite data acquired to identify actually areas where to focus and where to use drones in an autonomous way to go and collect the highest level of detail of information that is necessary, also in with let's say perspectives and view angles that would not be possible for satellites. And in this perfect combination of satellite assets, drones, satellite connectivity, and satellite navigation, if let's say legislation allows the autonomous flight of drones and such machines, we will have a perfect combination to really deliver real-time and near real-time information and for building really premium services for the end users.
Okay, very interesting. So thank you both to Domenico and Michele. And I have this final question for Lorenzo. So to sum up, what are the next steps following this side event? What is the way forward?
Okay, thank you, Elio. I guess that we add the evidence of many drivers of change. I mean, technological evolution, new scientific research, new geopolitical balances, introduction of private initiatives, legislative and regulatory evolution. Just to give you an example, it's starting now this year, a sandbox for fintech to the regulator to try some kind of deregulation in this sector, and it will be the same I guess, for the InsurTech sector too. More driver of change are ethical and economic dilemmas growing in the evolution of the climate change phenomenon. The new nano satellites that are able to many, the new approach to natural resource management. And these driver of change are facing with chances and risk. Of course, new markets and new perspectives are chances, like also sophistication of current insurance offers based on new technological advances related to space, the offering of products and services for the space economy, for the so-called new space economy, and but also risk of breakdown of critical infrastructure, lack of awareness and lack of investment, the need of new skills and specific training needs, and also the growth of polarizations. To summarize, I have to say that it's not easy, no? But trying to create a bridge between the two panels, the two sub-panels. There are many applications that insurance companies have been paying close attention to for a long time. I mean, big data, of course, is the number of activity satellites and their chance of increasing, and consequently, even the quality, quantity, and variety of images that will be, but also not many entities, including insurance companies, possess the ability or technological skills to handle such a large amount of data. So it's a matter of big data analysis and quality of data. Is once again a key factor for the right applications. As the volume of data collected is constantly increasing without the correct ability to process them. Data in itself is not significant and therefore cannot be converted into valuable technology. So how to shorten this bridge? I mean, my advice is to work on the development of use cases of interest for the insurance sector. Thinking that insurance already has satellite data, what they are looking for is the new approach to new business models. At the same time, this kind of there is no technology without strong business model, and we have still many technology opportunities not completely useful for the insurance sector, as also Michele Castorina underlined some minutes ago. So my advice is to, as Domenico Grandoni said, get in touch with intermediate bodies such as the Italian InsurTech Association, but also the Amaldi Foundation, to discover the opportunities like the G+ program that pays offer, and how to set up a viable product of interest for an insurance company. As a foundation, we are strongly engaged in this topic in the aim of exhibiting program that is offers to companies and accompanying them on this path. Next, I'm absolutely grateful to our panelists, and in my opinion, next step will be a new meeting during the New Space Economics Forum in December, as I mentioned before, in which all the panelists that here attended will be invited to discuss the same topic, but with a different approach. So I hope, because in these 2 months we'll try, this 1.5 months, we'll try to make this kind of relationship more strong. So that's it. I can't add many things more to the discussion, which was absolutely useful and rich of suggestions for us.
Okay, thank you, Lorenzo. And so I think we have finished exactly at the time we scheduled. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to the speakers of this panel and to those of the previous one. Thank you to our attendees. I think we have a question in the chat, but I don't think we have time for that. So we can redirect it to our speakers offline and provide the answer after the event. So thank you again to everyone. I think we finished the event.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.